Hey everybody, welcome back inside another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is October 1st, 2018, and look at you, you wasted another entire month of your life watching this boring drivel. We have a few kit releases this week. I would say we have kit announcements, but we're going to be doing a separate video, like I talked about last week, for the All Japan Model and Hobby Show. There is enough stuff between the new announcements, covering kits we already knew were coming, and of course this was the first time we got a chance to see a few of the kits that are not technically speaking part of the fall stuff, but it'll be the first time we've really seen them up close and personal, in a sense of like the 2001 Nissan R34 four-door 25 GT Turbo kit. That was something that was supposed to have already come out, but has been delayed for various reasons, and we got to see the test shots of it, production built test shots of it, as well as the parts layout for it. Got to see the finalized parts layout and decals and built test shot of, say, the Audi Quattro Group B rally car that's going to be coming out this month. There was also a few other little bits and pieces of things that, you know, the Pachetto Tempesto Pagani is another piece that was something that is a modified reissue, a new kit in the sense of it hasn't been released before in that format, but it's supposed to come out this month, and it's not part of the last, the fourth quarter stuff that is specific to that show. So, with all of that, the actual stuff to cover, the other sort of extraneous material, if you will, I felt it's enough to justify its own show, so the people who don't want to watch anything about that import crap don't have to, as well as the fact that it would just make this video much longer than it needs to be relative to the amount of kit releases that came out this week. On the kit announcement side of things, let me grab the notebook, set it aside from the last video. We have the, there's a cat digging through something. You guys probably can hear that because it's pretty loud, but I don't understand exactly what that... Oh, it's the kitten tearing a box apart. Kitten doing kitten things. The terminology that is used in Japan, which I think I will start stealing, is reprint. When they're talking about things that are direct reissues without any type of new pieces, parts, or anything added, they're just restocking. So the reprints for November out of Aoshima, in that term, in these kits, if you're new to the channel, you don't understand the terminology here, would be things that are reissues of out-of-stock product. Basically, Aoshima has no more of these in the warehouse, so they had to make some more so that they could be restocked into vendors. So they are the 1985 Honda City Turbo 2, the 1986 Nissan Leopard Altima, the 1990 JZX 81 Toyota Cresta. That's a recent reissue from earlier this year, so it's fun to see that sold out. Reissue of the 1989 Toyota Crown Royal Saloon G. Now that's a really recent reissue within like the last 3 months. So it's very interesting to see that kit sold out. Sort of a proof and concept, if you will, that even a stodgy, boring four-door Japanese car, if it hasn't been released in 20 years or so, is going to sell out on the limited runs that Japanese model kit companies usually run these kits of like 2,000 to 3,000 pieces. You got to get a reissue of the Volk Racing Rocket Bunny Toyota 86, a reissue of the 1991 K-Brake Toyota Majesta VIP, reissue of the 2006 Toyota Estima Fabulous VIP van, reissue of the Lamborghini Countach 5000 Quattro-volt fuel injection. That would be the red one right there. You get a reissue of the Liberty Walk Nissan Skyline. That would be the #1, the first kit that they ever did of the Liberty Walk series, as well as the Liberty Walk Nissan Skyline Hakasuka, the #4 kit in that series, and that is the dark blue two-door. Reissue of the AEA 6 Toyota Truno Initial D Project D, and if it seems like I say that every month, I swear to God, at least one of those kits is reissued every month. Reissue of the FD3S RX-7, which is the Ryosuke Takahashi Initial D car, which is not related to the Battle version, which is being reissued in October. And then you have 2 kits that were added to the sort of the release schedule here, and these are going to be kits 5 and 6 in the More Grand Champion series, and they are a 1980s I think it's 82 is technically what the kit is. 1982, 1980s. Nissan Skyline Ken and Mary four-door, and then a 430, which is a mid-1980s generation Nissan Cedric in that More Grand Champions series of body kits and crazy Japaneseness, as it were. And pretty much that's it, because everything else is stuff that we've, like I said, we're not going to get a lot of kit announcements in the terms of like, wow, that's new, holy mackerel, I can't believe that's coming out type of thing, because it's already all been covered for the hobby show itself. So that takes us to kit releases. There were a couple of last things out of round 2 for the month of September. Looks like one of the kits obviously has just gone over into October, but we got 2 of the 3 remaining round 2 kits, and then a few things out of Aoshima at the end of the month. I do want to make one sort of comment. I was going to post a forum post to this, and then I just figured I'd talk about it on here since the shorter video anyway. There was a thread on one of the more major modeling forums out there about the upcoming Revell 1968 Chevelle. Someone somewhere has found box art for it. And then through the course of the conversation of the thread, the gentleman who builds the box art for Revell, and a lot of round 2 stuff as well, but mostly Revell's, either posted on Facebook and somebody took it from Facebook and put it on the forum, or was sent to one of the forum people from the person. At any rate, it was like sort of in progress build shots of the test shot of the Chevelle that was used for the box art photos. You know what? It doesn't look half bad. It doesn't look, I'd say, 5/8 bad. You know, it looks typical Revell, what we would expect out of, the pre-Hobbico bankruptcy Revell and this, that, and the other thing. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because a few people in the forum were like, "Oh, yay, it's the first new kit out of the new Revell," and blah, blah, blah. And, let's face it, Revell has had their accuracy issues within the last half a decade. And all that being said, I have no complaints about this specific kit. First of all, I don't know enough about 68 Chevelles, really. I thought a few things looked wonky, but then I went online looking at them, and from certain angles, the car looks the same wonkiness, so it just may be photography angles of the box art car versus you find the exact same angle of the real car, and the wonkiness disappears. The real car looks just as weird. So, like I said, I don't really see anything that really stands out to me. There's talk about bumpers, there's talk about the C-pillar curve, and all of that is sort of, not water under the bridge, because you don't want to not take stuff seriously when it doesn't apply to you in terms of accuracy, but at the same time, it is not what I was calling the Revell 123, where there's a catastrophically stupid issue that should have been fixed well before the kit was ever put in production. Some smaller thing that you're just like, I wish they would have fixed that. And then some stupid thing that usually involves decals or an option to the kit where it's like, who is in charge of this mess, and let it out the door. A great example of the 123 Revell is the original version of the new Tool 4 Bronco, where, holy mother of God, what was wrong with the wheel guy, the guy who sized those wheels, because they're supposed to be 15 inches and they scale out to 13 inches. And then you had the smaller problems of like the grill wasn't quite the right shape, and the body didn't have the curvature at the bottom that it should have. But I don't know if normal circumstances, is anybody really going to be able to know that unless you're really into Ford Broncos? Probably not. Not what was staying there. People have made, obviously, new resin grills for the Ford Bronco who were bothered by its one-dimensional flatness. And then the third, that stupid thing was the fact that the decals were, when put into production, had this weird sort of kick up to the front striping portion that, had anybody bothered to actually proof the decals and then apply them to a model, would have realized that instead of going, going on a parallel to the bottom of the body shape, they instead were on this weird 45-degree angle that was wildly wrong, and nobody noticed that problem. And that's just one of those, who approved these decals? You guys ought to know from the fact we're in the process of a All Japan Touring Car Championship series, series of videos about the cars and the kits and the decals that go along with them, and the fact that obviously I'm very much into race cars in general. You guys know that I'm friends with a lot of the aftermarket decal people, and every one of them that I know that's worth their salt, as it were, proofs their decals, meaning they print out like a black and white set of those decals and make sure that they fit first before they approve the actual printing production of the kits. It's one thing to, get the decals back from the printer and something is goofed up, and then you have to go back to the printer and be like, no, I need these number placards in a slightly different shape and a slightly different shade of blue, or whatever the case may be. But Revell has a number of times over the last half a decade seem to have printed decals without ever proofing them on the actual model. And it's just like, hey, if they fit, they fit. If they don't, they're wrong. Who cares? Woohoo! The decals on this kit don't seem to have that problem. So that being said, again, I don't have any big problems with this kit. I want one. I'm happy to take one. Well, happy to take one. Happy to buy one. And all that stuff. But like I said, some people were talking about the fact that this is the first kit out of the all-new Revell. Well, that's not technically correct, because yes, this is the all-new Revell here in the United States, and the Blitzvell, the Revell, whatever you want to call it. This was, as you may recall, and I don't want to go over this because a lot of you guys really do watch every minute of these videos, and you're crazy for doing it, because I don't even watch every minute of these videos when I edit them. It's people like, I really like that rant. Which one? What did I talk about? Because I don't really remember. Was the fact that, of course, we've talked about this in the Too Long Didn't Watch version, is this was already in test shots prior to Hobbico going bankrupt. So this was already coming. This was going to be a 2018 kit, no matter who was in charge of Revell. So it's not really the first kit of the new Revell. It's really the last kit, or one of the last kits from the old Revell. And as we talked about, the old Revell had some issues. Some of the stuff was better than the others. Like I'm pretty good with most of the Model A stuff. There's some goof ups with like the bomber interior in the 30s backwards as far as what's engraved is embossed, and what's embossed is engraved, and there's a few other things. But like the Foose truck is really nice. The Foose Cadillac is really nice. I know a lot of people just go up in arms every time the word Foose comes out of somebody's mouth or appears on a screen, but the actual technical model kit of what it is and what it's supposed to look like, yes, would a 56 stock pickup truck been bettered? I don't know. You can argue that point all you want to, but for a 1:1 to 1/25th scale replica of the Foose pickup truck, it's pretty spot on. So that's not that kit doesn't have any issues. That's why you never heard me complain about it. It's why you've never really heard anybody complain about it, beyond the fact that it's that dumb guy Foose and it should have been a stock pickup truck. So that being said, a lot of us were just, more or less having fun at Revell's expense, of just being like, well, this is not really the new Revell, this is really the old Revell, and we'll see what the problems are, and there don't really appear to be any. And so the conversation really started going into, you guys all suck for bothering Revell, we should be happy model companies exist, and all that sad claptrap. And a thought was put forward by somebody who's, respected by a lot of people in the hobby. I've gone back and forth with the guy. Some days I agree, some days I don't. And it was basically, the idea was, well, you can't really judge a model kit until you've built it, which is a certain truth to. And that you can't really appreciate it until you've, like I said, you've built it yourself. And that's where I sort of diverge away from this guy's opinion, where I agreed with 99% of what he said, except that part, because if you look at the Ford Mustang that Revell did, you can tell the roof is too low without ever building it. I don't care how much paint you put on that, it's not going to fix that problem. The same situation exists with the 67 Camaro and the fact that the rear end is all screwed up on that. I don't care how much bare metal foil you apply to that model kit, that back end is still wrong. If you build the original issue of the New Tool Bronco, I don't care how much shebang you put into that thing, the wheels are still 13 inches in scale, not 15. So I can tell by the photograph, without ever building the model kit, this thing is wrong. It's the same thing with the, if you want to use the current example of this problem, will be the Salvino's JR NASCAR kits. The bumper is wrong on the Oldsmobile. That's just all there is to it. There's nothing to talk about there. It's, I don't need to build the model kit. It really doesn't matter if that model kit really built itself. In the old joke of the Tamiya thing, you put paint and glue in the box, shake it, and leave it overnight, and it comes back out built. It doesn't matter if it builds that well. The back bumper is still wrong and completely and totally wrong. No amount of building it is going to fix that problem with it. This sort of weird concept within the hobby that if the model builds well, then the model is good, is completely and totally irrelevant. A great example of this, if you are outside of the automotive hobby and you follow other channels and other groups, you know that several people that are involved with like Scale Model Critique Group Dukes and other people have gone off on tangents about Kitty Hawk and how bad some of their airplanes build up. And there is the inverse opposite issue with discussion about Kitty Hawk. People like, well, you're saying the kit doesn't fit together and that makes it bad. Well, it's not necessarily that it's bad and it doesn't fit. It's bad and it doesn't fit. It's one, the sort of the combination of the two. Just because the kit assembles well doesn't mean that that somehow amazingly supersedes every single issue with accuracy and, in the case of a plane, construction ability. We really, as automotive modelers, have it easy because we're not gluing two halves of a fuselage together and then trying to disappear wing roots and all of the stuff that goes along with that. It's pretty much slap the thing together like a sandwich and hope that the thing looks like a Buick when you're done with it. It's a great deal less stress unless you're building like a Heller kit or some of the other multi-piece bodies like the ICM kits and things like that, where okay, now you're gluing a bunch of panels together and you're worrying about literal seam lines where body panels are coming together. So there's this conversation goes back and forth, bicker, and it's relatively lighthearted. I gotta admit that there wasn't really anything about it that really, annoyed me, other than that whole idea that you have to build a model to truly appreciate what it's worth. The one thing you can say about all those Revell kits that are goofed up, they all build well. They're all fantastically engineered. The thing, Revell never ever has had a problem recently with the fact that their engineering was poor. There's nothing about any of those kits that's going to make you throw it across the room in terms of the fact you can't build it because it just doesn't go together, or it's short shot, or it's warped, or, well, some of the things are warped, but that's production rather than engineering. It doesn't have the fit issues of like a Mobius kit, like the windshields on the Fords or the windshields on the 62 Pontiacs or any of the other things like that, where the parts just simply do not fit the openings that they're designed to go into, and you want to throw it across the room out of frustration. You paid nearly $30 for a model kit and that was brand new tooling that doesn't assemble. That's a situation right there where I don't care how good the rest of that model kit goes together, the fact that it doesn't go together almost supersedes whether or not it looks right. Because that's really, this frustrating problem here doesn't make this problem over here go away. So Revell doesn't have an engineering issue for the most part. All their kits seem to really go together unless you find an old one. That led to today's post, and I'm not going to give this guy's credit with his name. If anybody recognizes the post, so be it. But it was made by some crotchety old person. I was actually a new reply in this thread. I've got the forum up on the computer here. Let's see if anybody commented to it. No, it's just somebody making a comment. There is a video comment. Somebody, there is a group of people in this hobby, and it drives me crazy. We've talked about it before, and I don't want to make this a 9-hour video about it, but that are like, I don't want to say relentlessly positive because they're the most negative people you'll ever come across, but the people that will not allow you to have a deferring opinion. They believe firmly in the idea that if you complain about a model kit too much, you're going to run the model kit company out of business. And so they're always the first ones to jump in with, oh yeah, let's just crap on everything brigade. And it's like, we're not even doing that. And especially in this thread, because we were really just probably having more fun with it than anything. It was a good conversation. It was very level-headed. There was no yelling. There was no personal insults. There was nothing. It was just here's my opinion about that. Well, okay, I respect your opinion, but this is why I disagree with it. Well, okay, well, I respect why you disagree with it, but here's another thought I have about it. And back and forth, very, like I said, very lighthearted, very, just everybody was respecting everybody, which is a rarity on this forum. Then this person posted a thing saying, oh, maybe we should take the completely separate thread where everyone could complain about and nitpick every model kit ever made since the beginning of time. That's irrelevant to the discussion we were having. But it's a reply to a moderator who is like, try to keep this on topic to the kit. Don't go too far out into the, well, Revell did all these things wrong, so this is going to be a wrong conversation. Which really wasn't anything to do with Revell at that point. It was more to do with people's opinions about what it takes to critique a model kit, in terms of seeing it versus having it versus building it. Then this person replied with, and I do this person a favor and not read this phonetically because holy mother of God, the spelling, but it's LOL. It's always good when you start a sentence with laughing out loud because you're about to say something insulting after that, and you think that makes it okay, and it's not. It's the old thing of like, hey, your grandma's dead. LOL, because that makes it funny. The LOL makes everything funny. But it's like this person is replying to that comment about nitpicking every kit. Brother, I'm with you. Let's just get the new models out. We are model builders. There's also no punctuation in this, so if it sounds like a lot of run-on sentences, that's exactly what it is. Let's just get the new models out. We are model builders, so fix and build. I have said it before, because that's not one word. I'm 66 and started the model hobby in 1962, so it's been 56 years, and in all that time, no one, and I mean no one, has ever come to my house and looked at the cars I have built and said to me, damn, that's not right, it's different from the real car. 5 exclamation points. After a period. Punctuation aside, and spelling aside, yeah, nobody has ever really come to anybody's house and ever said that. This whole thing is a straw man argument. And it is a straw man argument the size that should be drug out into the desert and set on fire in front of drug-addled people at a music festival. It is that big. That whole concept of we're model builders, so fix it, comes from, I believe, the sadomasochistic beatings that you all took back in the 1960s, where model kits were really toys that happened to actually have more pieces and need to be put together before you could play with them. This really hasn't been a case since probably the 1980s, where kits are purposely designed to be hard to build. And I'm not saying that necessarily kits were purposely designed to be hard to build, but you guys all know what I'm talking about. If you're old enough to remember the kits when they still had all the custom parts included into them, a lot of those parts were not really designed to fit the kit they were included in. They were just custom parts that went in everything that AMT made. And they give you like a little piece of instructions and a tube of putty and told you to smooth this into the body and blah, blah, blah. They were so loathed and unused that when you see older folks buy original AMT annual kits that are already built, usually they have something to say like, oh, thankfully the custom parts weren't attached to the body, because almost 99.9% of those were done poorly, sloppily, and with a tube of glue because they didn't fit the model they were going on to. They were just like a random front end piece. And because you had to, in those days, basically beat the model into submission in order to make it look right, I think y'all are suffering from some undiagnosed and untreated PTSD in that situation, and you expect this to be something you have to do all the time. I also believe this is true because I see a lot of people complain that they don't like to build Tamiya kits or the newer Aoshima kits or certain genres of Fujimi kits from like the 1990s because they are, and I quote, too easy. And they're not, quote unquote, enjoyable because they are too easy. And that's just ludicrous because, oh my god, it's a hobby. I want to enjoy myself, not have a fight with something. Of course, that's just me. Back to the comment here. Without a capitalization and a rule that would make my English teacher roll in their grave, they started the next sentence with and. And to all the guys my age, before, I hope this person was doing this phonetically. It was doing a voice to text, because there's absolutely no reason to separate the word before into 2 words. But before the net, if anyone did complain, no one ever knew about it. LOL. So basically, if anyone ever complained about model kits before, it was irrelevant, and your opinion is stupid, because LOL! It makes everything funny! I like it that way. Period. 4 exclamation points. Yeah, you liked it back before anyone could complain about it because you're an insular asshole who likes to hide in their basement away from your wife. Hey man, that's your life. You live it. Rock those shoes, walk them boots, and live that life. However, for the rest of us, we have hobby clubs and model clubs, and even before the internet, there were magazines, there were mailing lists, there were bulletin board services. Model contests were a lot bigger back then. There were ways to get out and talk to people and find out the kits sucked. Sorry, but this is the problem with young builders. They all want perfect when they get it, and that's why 90% can't use tools today to fix problems yourself, period. 3 exclamation points. So this is all young folks' problems. I'm going to take that as a young folks meaning like Gen X builders, because we all know there are no kids in the hobby. Yeah, here's the thing, and it'll be the last thing I say about this. Model kits are what they cost now, and you guys know that I'm one that is okay with the prices structure being the way it is. However, if you've been in the hobby since before you were in the 1960s, you know that model kits prices have gone up nearly 20 times in your lifetime. For me, model kits are around, I would say 5 times more expensive than they used to be when I was a kid. I don't understand what planet you live on where it's okay for something to have increased in price by 20 times, but the actual quality of the product has not, at least within your mind. We all know the quality of models is a great deal better now in 2018 than it was in 1966. Just simply based on parts fit and the fact that we aren't destroying model kits every time we turn around to build the next model kit because, oh, hey, that tooling should be turned into a short track car or a gasser or something along those lines, because no one will ever want this old piddly-ass factory stock car ever again. That got stopped in the mid-1990s, obviously. Just, if something costs what it costs, I don't have a problem paying for the price. My complaint is not that it costs too much. My complaint is that if it costs this much, it shouldn't suck proportionally to the price. All right? I can fix pretty much anything I need to on a model. I'm relatively handy in that sense. My wife might complain I'm not handy enough around the house, as your wife probably would also because, well, we just would rather do this than deal with that. But the idea that young builders don't know how to use tools, young builders are at fault for this, young builders are at fault for that, don't blame us. We're just pointing out the fact that you are stubbornly refusing to acknowledge is the fact that you're paying entirely too much for the box of crap that you're getting. And great part was it has absolutely nothing to do with this actual model kit, because this actual model kit doesn't look like a box of crap. So let's talk about the weekly releases here, shall we? We've got 2 kits out of round 2. They're, like I said, the last ones for this month. They are, because you know, who doesn't need another one of these? A Batmobile from the 1989 Batman movie with a resin figure included. So obviously just a straight reissue of the 1989 Batmobile. Not a half bad kit for what it is. I appreciate the fact that whoever built this test shot didn't sand the injection molding mark off the front of the turbine cone, but hey, be that as it may. This kit, I took real high-res picture I took at the hobby show, model show in Pittsburgh yesterday. At any rate, yeah, I mean, sculpting being what it is with the Batman figure, it doesn't really look like Michael Keaton, but it would probably look too much like Michael Keaton, then they would have had to pay for licensing. So, at any rate, that will be the second of the 2 resin-figured Batmobile 1989 movie kits, though obviously the first one was the Joker Goon car, which already came out. The other kit, which probably has a lot more interest to a lot more people just generally speaking, is this, which is the big multi-piece Piranha Drag Team kit. Now, this includes 3 whole models, if you want to count the trailer as a model. 3 whole models included in here. You get the sort of the Piranha Spy car, Gullwing car, just in its factory stock, if you want to call it that, format, so they have T decals for it. You get the little 2-wheel light-duty trailer, and then you get the reissue of the Piranha drag car, which I don't believe has been seen for, I want to say 15, 18 years. It was done as a one of the kits by Racing Champions in the 2000s, but it's been, you know, probably 15 years or so. $48 is what our local hobby shop wants for this. Retails for like $60 even. Like I said, you do get all 3 model kits in here, so you do get 3 whole model kits. If you're just interested in the drag car itself, there will be a separate model release of just the drag car. But, you know, vintage packaging. I believe there's some optional tinted glass included in this that was not in the Spy Car release. And then, of course, you have pad-printed tires for the dragster and things like that. So, interesting little piece of subject matter. I personally have no interest in it, but I know that it's been fairly well talked up on some of the forums, so some of you guys might be interested in that. And then that takes us overseas to Japan for the last, I'm going to take a real quick look through here, the last few things, which are a couple of reissues, straight reissues, and a couple of reboxed releases. On the straight release side of things, you have the Season 3 version of Knight Rider kits. So it looks like this kit has a new steering wheel. Well, it's not really new. It's a different steering wheel than the other releases, because there's nothing new about this. This is just a straight reissue. I really don't know these kits well enough to comment on the differentiation between them. I just know that there is a steering wheel and a couple other little bits and pieces that are blacked out on the parts runners that are included with the other kits that are not used in this particular version. And then also in this week's reissues, as it were, of these kits, you have the Season 4 Super Pursuit Mode version of the vehicle as well. This apparently has a whole bunch of body parts that come out to help Kit be more sporty, as it were. I mean, considering the fact that he was a emissions-choked Firebird. This actually has a different body in it than the other kits do, as far as the other kits. What times can I say that? But at any rate, obviously, with the back spoiler thing raising up out of the trunk and the various other aerodynamic and intake pieces here. I'm not exactly sure why there are air intakes behind the driver's seat, considering the fact that it's a front engine car, but be that as it may, you know, a lot of those little bits and pieces obviously would not fit on the standardized body from the other seasons of the TV shows model kits. So there are those kits. That'll now be 4 kits. The only kits they haven't released is the car kit. Anyway, so you have the Grand Champion stuff coming out, more Grand Champion stuff coming out, and these are the first 2 of the More Grand Champions series, and they are this 1980s, actually I should say it's 1970s C10, C210 rather, Nissan Skyline. So that's there with the wheels being 2-piece in both the kits we're going to talk about here. The centers are sort of injection molded. This case, they're molded in red because the whole car is molded in red. And then the wheel lips themselves are on the chrome tree. And then the other version of the other car you have is this, which is a well, it wouldn't be a JCX at that point, just be an X41 generation Toyota Mark II Grande. Same thing here. They're SSR Mark IIs on the Skyline, and they're Mark IIIs on the Mark II. I know that's confusing in its own right, but obviously these kits are what they are. They're the various factory stock kits with a whole bunch of add-on ground effects, chin spoilers, rear spoilers, the little small bulbous gumball style tires and wheels, things like that. I'm not totally sure these have the gumball tires per se. I didn't look at them that closely, but they obviously have these small 14-inch wheels with a great big deep dish to them and things like that that the Grand Champion Series kits have. So for the people who are really into that genre and that style of build, the More Grand Champion kits, I believe, were last released in the very early 2000s as well. So it's been, again, another 15-year or so drought for these, and there are a bunch of people at home weeping into their Wheaties, as it were, because their collectible kits are now not as collectible as they were prior, since they are releasing them with identical box art. The only thing that's going to be, differentiate the two between will be side panels and copywriting dates and things like that. The newer style Aoshima side panels, they would not be on those older kits. So, I don't necessarily say buyer beware per se, but, because for most people who are going to build those and buy them, you really wouldn't care about the rareness, if you will, of it in the first place. So that takes us to the last 3 releases for this video and for the month of September. Still at Aoshima, these are going to be things that are going to be reboxed into the new model car lineup series. The first one is this. It is the 1994 Nissan Skyline GTS 25T Type M R33, as it were. So the 25 Turbo GTS will be the 1 tier below a GTR type vehicle, in the sense that it's not all-wheel drive. It doesn't have quite all of the same engine tuning that an R33 Skyline GTR would have, but it is a turbo. The Type M being the luxury version, as it were. But it's just a reissue. This kit's been around since the mid 1990s, so just packaging it into the new lineup, as it were. And then you have this, which is the 1992. It says V30 on here, but I'm thinking that has something to do with the fact that it was a 3.0 liter twin cam turbo. rather than it being the V30, because it is actually a Y32 generation Gran Turismo Ultima. These kits are pretty much identical as far as the real cars go, as well as is the actual kit itself. The main differences here are going to be some interior piece differences, mainly like the steering wheel, as well as how you paint the vehicle and the trim. The front grills are different, the rear taillights are different, and then of course you have all of the Cedric and Gloria badging that goes along with it. There is only one body in this kit. Obviously you have to pick which of the two you're going to be building with it. The one thing I did notice that does not seem to be in this, that was in the original, was the original had tiny sheets of photo etch. For the scripting and things like that, they are not in this, but it does include window masks, which it did not have in the past, and also has those little aluminum, stamped aluminum license plate holders that Aoshima has been throwing in pretty much everything in the past year and a half. And then lastly, from Aoshima, you have this, which is the 1993 JZX 90 generation Toyota Chaser and Toyota Cresta. Now, as you look at the box art here, the Cresta is in the background, the white car, the Chaser is in the foreground, the black car, the more sporty of the two. This kit does include two separate bodies, because the Chaser is a pillarless hardtop, and obviously the Cresta is a regular sedan. So you do get sort of a buy one, get one here in terms of the body. Now you do have to pick one or the other. It only does include one interior and one chassis itself. The big differences, obviously, other than the body shell itself, because obviously one doesn't have a set of B-pillars, are the wheels are different, the front fascia is different in terms of both the bumper itself as well as the grille areas. The Chaser uses a spoiler. It has a slightly different rear end, and there are some differences in the interior pieces, again, mainly the steering wheel and how you paint it. And then, of course, you have all of the scripting and badging and decals. There were never any photo etch for this. It does come with the little aluminum license plate frames, and it does come with window masks for the first time. These kits, I believe, have both been reissued not terribly long ago. I'm pretty sure that if I peek my head around the corner here, I can see some Aoshima Crestas and Chasers. Now, I do have a Cresta, but I'm not sure necessarily that it is a newest version in terms of reissues go. I plan to buy this to get the Chaser, because I'm pretty sure I don't have an actual JZX 90 Chaser, but funding is what it is, so we'll pick that one up sometime down the line, hopefully. I don't expect that necessarily to sell out per se. It's sort of a, just a basic curbside mid-sized Toyota sedan, so it is what it is, and we'll plod along and go from there. But anyway, guys, that wraps it up for this week. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys on the other side.